that came out, they had it on Top Gear. I remember that was my first introduction to the R35 was on Top Gear.
Okay.
And what's crazy is when you go back and look at that now, it was, I think 2008 is the right year for that.
Yeah, Jeremy Clarkson didn't look like his face was melting, yeah.
Yeah, so, and the GTR, for not being a big Nissan fan and for still believing that I think there's like a $15 million bounty on Carlos Ghosn's head and that we should go fund some project cars with that. So,
we could find him and bring the GTR back again.
We could.
What'd you do? I found gold and we're bringing back the GTR with the funding and keeping the rest.
From Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak, this is the Automotive ADHD Show with Matt West.
And here we are, rocking it on the Automotive ADHD Show. Matt West here, hanging out with you, talking cars on the weekend. Loaded show for you because we're talking about how a dozen car models, maybe more, are going away in 2025. And some of these might surprise you. Also, Jim Miller joins the show later to discuss some automotive shenanigans that we got into earlier this week. Some of which might have involved dropping a Toyota Cressida off of a trailer. Or maybe onto a trailer. Depends on how you look at it. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about some cool JDM cars that are finally legal to import into the United States now. Now that it's 2025, you know about that pesky 25-year rule. And we have some cool cars now from the year 2000 you can bring into the United States. And some of them, even for your Euro fans, I know some of you are out there who like Audis and BMWs and Lotuses. Lotus I don't know. Anyway, some of you might be happy as well. So we're going to discuss all of that and more. And of course, Jim is going to join me on the radio. He's not in studio right now, though. Hopefully he'll be here for the second segment of the show because he's presumably tried to drive one of his K-trucks on I-25, one of his little mini trucks. So he's not here yet. So if you do see him flooring it on I-25 in the right lane doing 35 miles an hour, let him know that he's late for my show and he needs to get over here. So anyway, I wanted to talk about a few different things. And I want to touch on this first, which is last week, Jim and myself, we discussed some interesting things when it comes to warming your car up. Yeah, we talked about warming your car up. And this is relevant right now because we've had some chilly weather here in Colorado Springs. These past couple of days have been chilly. We got a little bit of a reprieve in the weather yesterday. The sun came out. It was still cold. But I'm telling you, Thursday, the snow was blowing sideways. It was just awfully cold. I mean, the wind chill was in the negatives. It was really, really chilly, and there was snow flying around. And that was one of the things where I got to put to the test some of the theory that Jim and I had discussed, which Jim, as you know, is a big supporter of warming your car up. In fact, even when we finish the shows here at the radio station, we go out to the parking lot and we go to our cars to leave. We'll usually chat for a few minutes before we both drive off. He will sit in his car for 20 minutes and wait for it to warm up. Like, hey, wherever I'm going, I will plan to leave 20 minutes early so I can let my car warm up all the way. And now I will say, you're probably not hurting anything doing that. In fact, you're not. You're not risking anything. But I stand firmly on the line of I just get in and go because modern cars, modern engineering, it was all designed to work that way. So I want to look at this, though. You, the listener, commented on this on YouTube and Facebook, and I want to pull up some of those comments here. And because I think some of you made some valid points. Some of you, I figured this would be the case when we got into this, which was you'd have 50% of you in my camp and 50% in Jim's camp. And there's like 1%, so I guess whatever, 0.5% of people who like EVs, and they let their thoughts be known. So the question is, do you warm up the car? Do you do it? Well, I wanted to highlight a couple of things here. One user here called I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's username. The Rasher, the the rasher, I don't know how to say that. But he says, I just let it run for a few seconds till it idles down. When it is stupid cold outside, I'll remote start it, let it sit a little bit longer so I'm not getting into an icebox. More the focus of having that car being warm and having it be cozy when you get inside it rather than actually warming it up mechanically. I think Jim and I were both kind of really focused on the mechanical aspect of it, not so much thinking about the creature feature of it, if you will, having the occupants be warm. I don't care about the occupants being warm in my car. That's why I wear a jacket. I have passengers. It's cold in here. Well, stop being cold then. Get good. That's a skill issue. You know what that is? That's a skill issue. Stop being cold. So another user here says 30 to 60 seconds, depending on ambient temperatures. No high revs till it's warm. For turbo engines, I'll also cool them down and idle them on the cool down. So again, that's a different topic. Should you let a turbo car cool off? We won't even get into that can of worms right here. But now here's another user. I could just read the ones who agree with me, actually, because Jim's not here. Maybe he's late because he stayed and warmed up his car for 30 minutes. I don't know. I could just read all the comments that agree with me and not even worry about it. And then see, there's Jim's not here to defend himself, and I win, obviously. But I will do him some good grace here. And this user says, Danny Aspirus says, I let my car warm up to temperature. I have an old 1976 Chevy two-seater, which I think there's an exception when you have old cars. Old cars are a little different. Carbureted vehicles in particular are going to be a little different in how you treat things, and especially if you've got a manual choke. And yeah, I can understand warming that up. My argument was in modern cars. You have anything made with fuel injection, who cares? Get in it and send it. Now, I don't actually send it. To reiterate my point on the show, which was that I get in and I drive, but I keep it under 2,500 RPM. I keep those revs low. I baby it, but I do just get in and go. Maybe I put my seatbelt on because I know by the time I've got the seatbelt on, the oil pressure has come up to the regular operating level and all of that. So then I just set off. And I do maintain that it warms up faster doing that. And a lot of manufacturers even recommend doing that. And now this is an interesting one. This other guy here, Ranta Bosolian, you people on YouTube you need easier to pronounce usernames. Come on, man. You're giving me a hard time here on the radio trying to read these for the first time. But he says, I think something else you have to take into consideration is your transmission is probably just as expensive as your engine is these days. A little bit of warming up is not going to hurt anything. Yeah, I think, and I will say this to a point. I noticed, for example, my daily driver Tacoma shifts a little bit smoother when it's warm. When it's cold and it's really cold, those shifts are a little notchier. It's a 6-speed manual, but even then I can feel it. Those shifts feel notchy and they feel kind of harsh, even at that point. Now, obviously, it's a little different too with an automatic transmission. You want all the fluid to warm up in there. You've got the different clutches and all of this stuff that happen in there. And I can understand why that would make sense. But to my point being that if you just baby it, you drive it nice and easy, all of that stuff warms up pretty quickly. And your transmission, obviously, even when you warm up the engine, the transmission isn't going to get that much heat in it compared to the motor. And so anyway, I think there's a pretty good 50-50 split here. Again, aside from the EV people, because the EV people, at least one of them showed up. I don't even know if they deserve having their name mentioned because they drive an EV. And it wasn't Brian, by the way. If you recall, if you're a fan of this show, the official show mechanic, former show mechanic, previously, bought an EV. So he has been excommunicated from the show. He's been exiled. He's I don't even call him by his name anymore. He doesn't even deserve that much. So, but Brian, friend of the show, OBD1 Kenobi, he got his EV and he was rubbing it in. He goes, ooh, I just schedule it on my app on my phone. And when I get up for work, the car's already been preheating for 30 minutes. It's cozy inside. I don't have an engine that needs to warm up either. But see, my rebuttal to that is, for one, my vehicle that runs on good old-fashioned dinosaur juice, the heat is a byproduct of the combustion process. Whereas you have an electric car, come on, you're losing range. You turn that heat on and you suddenly lose half your range. I'm exaggerating a little bit. It's not that bad. But I do like perpetuating the EV, the hate of the EVs, even though there's some that I hate to admit it, I kind of do like. So anyway, let's keep this discussion going. Go on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, find the video, comment. What do you do with your car? Do you warm it up? Do you let it sit? Let me know. Facebook.com/AutomotiveADHD. We'll be back after the break.
Toyota Adventures with Jim, Misadventures with Jim, Part 2. That's about to be.
It's just things that happen.
So there's nothing up there. There's nothing back there, but it's okay because we got some cinder blocks and some wheel dollies, and we even ratchet strapped them for, to make us to feel better. So, and it's a Crestata. So we'll see.
Yeah, so Jim, just a guy, Jim Miller, is joining me here on the Automotive ADHD show. I am Matt West, hanging out with you, talking cars for the weekend. Jim, can you, first of all, explain to me what we were doing for the benefit of the listeners on radio, the viewers on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook? They saw what that was. And what that was it borderline, like a little sketchy? Tell me, that was yesterday, like just proving we do get out and do real car stuff.
It's fine. We're just acquiring a pile of rust so we can go ahead and build a track car that we don't care if we wreck it. That's basically what the whole thing is with all that. But yeah, it was definitely not the sketchiest or worst load or unloading or car type thing happening. Because we better fix things or load things or do things in much worse situations. That wasn't the worst by any means.
So what made that challenging, though? To explain it for the good people.
What made it challenging is we already pieced together a shell, turned it into a roller, unloaded it off that trailer quickly and efficiently. A few of us, me, you, and our other friend, rolled it off the trailer, got the trailer ready to go, went down there. It's freezing cold. It's miserable. Made a trip down to do it. Did not bring the stuff we needed.
No, because that would have helped. So we didn't bring that.
Yeah. So, of course, because, super prepared and do way too many car things. So we always have all the tools and all the equipment and materials that we need. We did not. And there was no jack, no nothing like we needed. And we just kind of made it happen and just shoved it through. And we're like, well, we're here. We might as well get it done.
So, Jim, you're not mentioning the big part, which is that vehicle had no wheels, no axles.
It's a shell.
It's a shell. Like it's a
shell, not a roller, a shell filled with parts.
Yeah. Yeah. And to clarify, there was another shell stuck on your trailer still that also didn't have anything in it. So we had to put that together so we could roll it off the trailer. Then we could get this other shell.
Yep. We converted a shell to a roller, which means it has axles and steering wheel. You can steer it and move it, and it will roll up and down and to where you need it to roll to. And then we had to get another shell to put on there in lieu of the old shell that we turned into a roller.
So what you can gather from this is that planning and forethought is not a strong suit on the behalf of either of us, really. So
No. I am organized chaos. I am not a good planner. I'm a goal-orientated type of fella. It's like, what do you got to do? I got to get this, and this done. What happened? I got 5 out of those 12 things done, maybe at best.
Yep. But and there's a reason that folks here in town call you the Toyota God. Yeah. That was another Toyota. How many? I'm just putting you on the spot here. If you had to guess, because I know you probably don't know the answer, you probably lost count. But how many Toyotas in particular do you think you have now?
There's
because there's one new one now.
There's
new to you.
30 or 40 Toyotas. I don't know. Too many Toyotas.
Too many Toyotas.
Too many. 30 too many. Yeah.
Yeah. Enough. So this one now. Again, I put this out here because I've been accused on this show, like, hey, you just talk about cars. Do you do any car stuff? We do, and we do the worst kind of car stuff because it's terrible. It was also cold, and then I didn't mention that we wrapped that up after it got dark.
Yeah.
At that point, it was dark, and then as we were pulling it back to your place, as we pulled it in, it fell off of the wood blocks in the front.
Yes, it did.
So final stuff, like the last few feet, then it falls.
That's
so
usually when bad things happen.
Yeah. So it was Even funnier about this was more than once we encountered law enforcement on the roadways, and I was behind you. I was just hoping. I'm like, man, I hope they don't look at this really sketchy load we have and decide that it looks a little too sketchy. Now, we did strap it down.
Yeah, it was strapped down good and all that stuff. It's just it bounces around on a steel deck trailer. Plus, driving through Fountain, any of us that have been around for a while is very familiar with the quote-unquote Fountain Police Department and some of their shenanigans of, what are you doing? Oh, da-da-da. I've had an incident where my car was parked and hit, and I had to drive it back up from Fountain. And they're like, hey, pull me over, all this stuff. We need all your stuff, blah, 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 license, registration. Your headlight's out. I'm like, yeah, my car got hit while it was parked. I'm actually on the phone with you on one line, and on my work phone, I have the insurance on the other line. Thanks for the help. I figured you could have looked it up on a beep, bop, boop and computer thing and been like, oh, he's on the phone with Fountain Police right now. So, yeah, that was great. Oh, I just wanted to help you, he said. And I was like, yeah, you just wanted to find a reason to charge me extra money for just trying to get on my merry way. So I was already having a crappy day, but that's one of the lighter, annoying experiences with Fountain Police that I've had.
Okay. Now, just before we move on to any other topics, and we do have more of those, by the way, we're going to talk a little bit about a new hydrogen vehicle record that has been set. We're also going to talk a little bit about, I have some ideas that I'm going to throw at you, Jim, about cars that are getting discontinued this year.
Okay.
So we'll get into all of that, but real quick, give me, before we wrap this up, we don't always talk about our own cars on the show, so sometimes it's fun to share. What is the plan for this rusty shell of a Cressida?
What shall it be?
Yeah, what shall it be?
So if I can't straighten the front, we're just going to tube it out, call it done, leave the dents and the dings in it. Whatever cheap motor I can get, I'm going to put in there, whatever cheap transmission and rear end, it's going in there. It's going in there. Just making a seat time track car that I'm not going to be upset or mad. Not if, but when it gets wrecked.
Which it already has been wrecked.
Which is fine.
That means statistically, it's less likely to get wrecked again.
Probably. But at the point being with it, we are keeping it alive and going to get really good use out of it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that speaks to the importance of having if you do track stuff, if you do drift stuff, having what they call a missile car, a drift missile. One you can get seat time in and not be worried about. Because you know what really counts?
Seat time. Seat time cars where it is. Slow, fast, what you like, what you don't like. I always say try to find something that relates to you, but you're not going to care about it being damaged. That's the most optimal. Don't be scared to drive it, but get some seat time. That's what matters. It has been a long time since I've gotten to have seat time and do fun stuff. So I figured build something that's got real low cost to get into, and just whatever parts and stuff I have around or I got to scavenge up that are cheap, it's going in it.
Absolutely. That is the way to go. And so at some point when we put this thing together, we'll probably see Jim Miller going around one of the racetracks locally, Pueblo Motorsports Park, Pikes Peak International Raceway, any of those. Going around it, hopefully not crashing, but if you do crash, well, it's a missile car, so
won't hurt my feelings.
Not going to hurt your feelings.
Keep all the good parts afterwards. Try to straighten it again.
Yep. So now I got to talk a little bit about this. Of course, you are listening to the Automotive ADHD show. I'm here with Jim Miller, just a guy who ran for mayor, by the way. And
yes,
so, Jim, you sent me this story, so you actually may know a little bit more about it, but a new Guinness World Record was set very recently. And I'm going to read the headline here. This is straight from Guinness. Hydrogen-fueled truck breaks world record to shine light on future of transportation. So this is what is it? Looks like a Kenworth. And it did quite a bit. It weighs 33,000 pounds, and they say it represents a significant collaboration between the Department of Homeland Security and a handful of other agencies. But hydrogen power. What do you think about that, first and foremost?
How far did it go?
It went here. The minimum distance was 1,200 miles. And it looks like it did that all on hydrogen. Bear in mind, it went over 18. So it had to do 12, and it got 1,800 now.
Oh, how big's the fuel capacity on that? How big was the fuel tank on that? Is it in gallons? Like the hydrogen, does it go, hey, it's gallons, or how do they do hydrogen?
I want to say they do it by gallons, but
I don't know. But look, going that far with that much weight, that's pretty good.
33,000 pounds.
I don't know
Without-
what
but get this, without-
the average rig weighs, though.
That's a good question.
I mean, do they all weigh 3,300 pounds? 33,000 pounds?
33,000 pounds. They can be pretty heavy. It obviously depends on your load. But what's interesting about this is it was able to do this essentially without making any
No
stops.
stops.
No
Okay,
stops.
nice.
Yeah.
I think it might be worth doing. It might be better than the electric stuff. I don't know. I'm open to options. You were there. I got to drive my first electric vehicle.
Oh, we have to play that on the show.
I am,
Jim got to drive an electric vehicle. After a few weeks ago, you listened to the show with former mechanic, OBD1 Kenobi, former official mechanic of the show, who is former because he bought an EV now. So we've exiled him. But he let Jim drive his EV for the first time.
I don't hate them now. I'm just kind of indifferent to it. And I was impressed by one thing. Just the lack of brake fade was impressive.
Yeah.
That was actually impressive. The taking off and everything, I was like, okay, that's all right. But really, the lack of brake fade was the most impressive aspect of it.
Yeah. Now, I kind of want to tie this in, though. We're looking at a hydrogen truck. People have heard about hydrogen fuel for a couple of decades now. And Toyota did a hydrogen program. And, what I think it speaks to is exploring every technology we have at our disposal to have the most diversity in energy sources.
Because one type may not be what's needed for where you're at or your type of work or transportation. And look, they were, what are they doing there? The synthetic fuels, too. They're looking at that. They got it down to, I think, $40 or $50 a gallon now with the synthetic fuels. They got hydrogen. They got electric. They got all kinds of stuff going on. And then the hybrids that are mixes and then matches and stuff. But it's fine. I don't think the way is it with the rebates and giving you money to purchase a thing. I think let the market figure it out. Let the consumer decide. I don't like being forced into things. That makes me a lot more reluctant to pick those types of things. That's just me. But make your own choices. But all these different technologies, one of them is going to turn out being real good for whatever type of business and transportation or just you going to and from work.
Yeah.
So it's up to us. We need to pick it out. They need to develop the stuff for the market, the consumer, which is us, and we decide. Not the system, not some company making you do stuff. I don't want any more jagged up stuff popping up out there with everything. I don't know what that commercial was about. That's the Jaguar commercial, the most jagged up thing I've ever seen, but we don't need a market like that. We need choices, and we need to make the decisions on what we need for what we're doing.
I agree with that 100%. And the thing is, when you look at the rebates, you mentioned the rebates, and Brian, he benefited tremendously from the rebates. And you know what? Fine. Good for him. I'm not mad at him personally.
I'm not mad at him. I'm just mad that it's our tax money and we didn't get a choice on it.
But also, those rebates are only going for EVs. If you have a better vehicle, a hydrogen vehicle, you're not getting a rebate on that still. So why would you pursue that technology?
I'm kind of against all the rebates.
We're going to get into all of that and more. Talk about cars that are discontinued now that it's 2025, and maybe even some that are legal to import. You're listening to the Automotive ADHD Show. I'm Matt West with Jim Miller. We'll be right back after the break.
You will pry my 68 Mustang gear shift out of my cold, dead fingers. I yield back.
He's the nut behind the wheel and behind the mic. This is Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
Yes, it is. And with Just a Guy, Jim Miller, we're talking cars. Before the break, we were talking about a hydrogen-powered truck that set some world records for being for traveling the longest distance without stopping. And during the commercial break, producer James, doing a great job producing the show, by the way. I don't always have a producer, so I feel fancy. James, you made a suggestion. What did you say about our hydrogen discussion?
So the Hindenburg was this Zeppelin that Germany had, and it was powered by hydrogen to lift it. And in 1937, there was a fire, and it caused the entire thing to crash. And I'm wondering, what are the implications that hydrogen may have with these vehicles?
That is I think that's a good.
That's why we don't travel in blimps, James.
Well, what if the car blows up, man?
It could, but I don't know.
But also, I mean, what?
I mean, fuel's flammable. Are we going to be okay?
Not as much as hydrogen.
Look, man, I don't own a blimp, so I have no idea.
Also, I
I'm
mean,
not
for the
traveling my
record,
blimp.
for the record, lead car doesn't sound nearly as cool as Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, it's true.
Just throwing that out there. But no, I think, so with modern hydrogen technology, I've looked into this to some extent, and I think modern hydrogen technology is very safe. The way they contain the hydrogen in these, the tanks that they contain this in. I mean, they hold
vehicles. The batteries can burn for a long period of time and go up in flames and explode. So I mean, it's all got risk, if you will.
Yeah, it all has risk, but I think the risk is mitigated significantly with modern hydrogen technology. The tanks that the hydrogen is stored in are very robust.
As long as it's not like the Titanic, since we're bringing up old stuff.
Oh, man. Yeah.
What was it? Why didn't they make, 6 holes? Why didn't they make 7, You're like, I don't know, icebergs or something?
Oh, man. But no, I think, in Toyota, when they were doing their Toyota Mirai car, which was their hydrogen-powered concept car, the Toyota Mirai, and they were touting the safety of the hydrogen tanks in that. I mean, the tanks are incredibly robust. They're under pressure. Sure, they're under pressure from the inside, but I mean, you would have to have a significant amount of force to penetrate these. And they did crash testing and all sorts of stuff. And I mean,
you know what I mean? The batteries are flammable, fuel's flammable, hydrogen can go boom too. It's all.
I made a joke on the show last week about what if you made, because EVs catch on fire, right? According to everyone, like, oh yeah, if it's an EV, it's just going to blow up, right? Immediately. Which isn't always true, but your gas car might blow up. So I thought, hey, what if we increase those odds a bit? What if Ford comes out? They have the Mustang now as an EV crossover thing. What if they brought back, in the spirit of bringing back old makes and models, I should say, the Ford Pinto, but as an EV?
Oh, just on the rear and just a rod to make sure it punctures.
Yeah. The back there has like something in it, like an explosive charge.
What is this rod here for? Oh, it's to make sure if you get rear-ended, it punctures the battery pack in honor of the Pinto. They used to puncture the fuel tank. So you got to keep with tradition.
There's a great scene. I'm drawing a blank from the name on the movie. We might put it in post on the video if you're catching the video of this. Was it Top Secret? I think it was Top Secret.
They barely touches the bumper and it's all boom.
Yeah. Like, just ding, rear ends the Pinto and it explodes.
Is that Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase, right?
I think so. Yep. So the thing is, and if you're not tracking on here, the Ford Pinto was infamous for blowing up because of some questionable design choices. And it was also infamous that when you rear-ended it and blew it up, and then you died, and then your family sued Ford on your behalf, they usually would just pay people off to not talk about it. They decided that it was cheaper to settle out of court multiple times on all of these instances than it was to actually go back and redesign the car.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think my mom had a Pinto for a while when I was growing up.
Oh, man. Well, you survived.
I'm still here.
Maybe that's what's
how
what's
dangerous
wrong.
Is it? Yeah.
Maybe that's what's wrong with your face. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I got a face for radio too. That's why I'm here on the
Don't
radio.
We all?
Yeah.
Don't all of us that are on the radio have a face for radio?
Yep. So now
only the love of mothers and a face for radio.
So Jim, we got to talk a little bit about this. The Ford Pinto, of course, was discontinued a very long time ago, but there are some cars, according to Car Edge, Car Edge here, that are being discontinued in 2025.
Okay, what are they? What do we got?
So we've got a list. This is 17 cars and trucks being discontinued for the American market, bear in mind. So some of these that aren't American might continue, in Europe and Asia.
Okay.
But we've got, and I want your gut reaction to this. Firstly, we have the Audi A4, which sounds like an expensive Volkswagen to me.
I don't care about Audis. I don't like German cars. How do you talk all that crap, start 2 world wars and lose? You build BMWs, Mercedes, Volkswagens, and Audis and Porsches. So, yeah, no loss there. Goodbye.
Yep. We got the Cadillac XT4.
I don't even know what that is.
Yep. So, good riddance.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Bye.
Bye. See you on there. Here's one, though. The Chevy Camaro.
That's kind of a shocker because the Camaro's been around forever. Was there ever a lull of Camaros not being produced?
I believe there was in the mid to late 2000s, like
Okay.
somewhere in there. There was like the early 2000s
Just before
to
the
just before the
movies.
Transformers movie, like kind of in between there.
When Bumblebee went from being a Volkswagen to a Camaro, you're like, I guess.
Yeah. Then we've got the a couple ones here no one cares about. The Ford Edge, the Ford Escape.
Don't care. Those are the
Don't
Trudeaus
care,
of
don't
car
care.
things.
Yep,
They're
yep.
going away, and we don't care.
The Mitsubishi Mirage, which for a long time has been the cheapest new car in the North American market. It is.
Really?
They have been making it for quite a long time with zero updates. It's been terrible, and then they updated it recently. Anyway, that's going away.
Okay. No loss.
No loss there.
Kind of sucks because Mitsubishi used to make some pretty neat stuff, and then I think they didn't they have a VR4 Mirage at one point in like the 80s?
Oh, that's possible.
I don't know.
know.
The VR4 stuff's like their all-wheel drive stuff. that
Yeah.
Mitsubishi had for the most part.
Well,
but
and
they
let's-
had Evos.
I was gonna
Evos were
say-
pretty good.
I was just about to say, let's not forget the Evo turned into a crossover again.
Yeah, the old Evos out of the box would beat any Subaru WRX, STI out of a box. The Evos were always faster and better.
And you still have guys these days taking the 4G63s and boosting them to the moon.
Yeah, and those Mitsubishi pickups were pretty good too. So Mitsubishi's made some decent stuff. They're not a real big company, but they make some pretty good stuff.
Yeah. Now, looking at the rest of the list here, Alfa Romeo, and I always mispronounce this one, the Quadrifoglio, whatever that is in Italian.
I don't know.
But the Giulia and Stelvio and the Quadrifoglio. That's Italian for...
From Alfa Romeo, they make all these.
Yeah. That's those. So those are going away. Alfa's still making cars.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Alfa Romeo had some pretty neat stuff in the 80s, if I remember right, and the 70s.
Of course, former mechanic of the show, Brian, has Alfa, actually. It's his dad's. It's a GT V6, and that V6 was probably the best sounding V6 ever.
Right.
I mean, ever. Like, really.
Yeah, Italians had some style with some of their older stuff. They cared about the way it looked. They tried to make them run forever, but that wasn't always the case by any means.
Let's see. We've got some other casualties here. The Jaguar F-Type. That's pretty jagged up.
Yep,
very jagged up. Oh, here we go. The Nissan GTR.
Oh, they're all done with it, huh?
They're all done with the GTR. After what? What was it, 2008? They've been making the same car since 2008.
Yeah.
I remember watching when the new GTR came out, the R35. When that came out, they had it on Top Gear. I remember that was my first introduction to the R35 was on Top Gear.
Okay.
And what's crazy is when you go back and look at that now, it was, I think 2008 is the right year for that.
Yeah, Jeremy Clarkson didn't look his face was melting, yeah.
Yeah. So, and the GTR, for not being a big Nissan fan and for still believing that I think there's like a $15 million bounty on Carlos Ghosn's head and that we should go fund some project cars with that. So
we could find him and bring the GTR back again.
We could.
What'd you do? I found gold and we're bringing back the GTR with the funding and keeping the rest.
Yeah, I sort of I don't think I'll ever
Wow.
Something like that. I think it's still open. We'll have to find out. You might want to check on
$15
that.
million. That's like 30 houses.
Yeah, so in other news, we're assembling a team.
It's not the A team. It's not the B team. It's the Z team. We're gonna skip to the end.
Oh man! So we're gonna
the theme music for that.
Yeah, we're gonna continue this. And Jim, I want to talk about, since you're a guy who likes JDM stuff, there's some new cars available to import for 2025. So we're gonna get to all of that and more.
The Toyota Corolla sedan. For 1984, it's more than new. It's front-wheel drive. Already one of the world's most popular family sedans, Corolla has been totally redesigned with more comfort and incredible room. It's the next generation front-wheel drive with legendary Corolla economy and dependability. Catch the next wave Corolla sedan or 5-door liftback. Corolla.
Colorado Springs' #1 car show by default. This is Automotive ADHD.
Yes, it is. Matt West here, talking cars with you on the weekend. Joining me across the board is Jim Miller, just a guy. He ran for mayor, he lost, and now he's on a car show. Jim, that's quite the career step right there.
What a resume.
That's a resume
Way
right
to
there.
go.
What looks better on your resume, being on my show or running for mayor? Choose wisely.
I think being on the show is probably better.
Oh,
It shows
geez.
consistency.
He's flattering the host here.
It's just being honest. Politicians ain't really like very decent human beings.
Well, and we get to talk about cars here, so that's already a plus
Which
one.
is
in the
way more fun.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Much better topic.
So before the break, we were talking about cars that were getting discontinued in 2025, and I want to talk a little bit about cars that are going to be legal to import here. But before I do that, this was funny. This happened during the break. Jim, you had this receipt. Where's that receipt? Can you pull out that receipt?
It's probably in my pocket again.
He pulls this receipt out, and he goes, "Hey, there's a car wash code on this receipt. Can you read it? I want to show you." I want to show you on camera if you're watching on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook.
I lose them in my pocket all the time.
This has been lost for decades.
It has not been
you know
lost
when
for
when
decades.
receipts are so old that the text starts just fading off of them. He goes, "Can you read the car wash code on this?"
It's not even a week old.
That's not a week old.
No, it's just been in and out of my pocket a couple times.
Jim's car wash code is 377. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, but is it? It is only a week old. How do you do that in a week?
I take things in and out of my pockets. I don't know. There's always screws and bolts and nuts and washers and crap in my pockets.
Did you blow your nose on this too?
Yeah. I'm out there sneezing in the snow, blowing my nose.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's what happens because I put things in and out of my pockets. And then,
I do see that it is the ultimate car wash, though. So you're being spendy on the car washes.
I honestly transfer my pocket stuff to the next pair of pants, too. So,
yeah.
It's super fun.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to call you out on the show
you just wanted to make fun of me for that.
Well, actually, I just wanted to give away your car wash code. So now you know, by the way, I won't tell you which car wash. You just have to go to all of them and put the code in, and then you might get lucky.
There's somebody probably going to decipher it now going, who only has an ultimate car wash? Because there's companies that don't have an ultimate car wash.
Yeah, there's one. It's premium. Well, this one calls it ultimate. So
they're gonna be like, it's only the places that have ultimate car wash.
We should
type in the code you give.
Not today, but we should. This is a weird topic. We should talk about car washes. This city has a lot of car washes.
We have discussed car washes a couple times.
We
talked
we
about
have.
talking about this.
We should, but not right now. Right now, I want to talk about cars that you can import now. That it is 2025. It is our Lord's year, 2025, and there are some neat cars. I'm going to go through a list. First of all, the ones that Car and Driver posted. Hat tip to them. Though I can kind of tell the automotive tastes from author Brendan McAleer. Yeah, I think that's how you say his name. Because these are all European cars, but they're good. If European cars are your cup of tea, you might be interested in these. And then we'll go into some JDM cars. Because Jim, I know I
prefer that.
That's your thing here. But we cater to all automotive addictions here on this show. But first of which is the Lotus. The Lotus Exige, for specifically the ones the early European ones, because you can get the Elise and some of the other stuff here. That's now legal to bring into the United States. The Lotus 340R, which is like a big go-kart. That's cool. Or, hear me out, the Holden USS from the land down under. So, I don't know if you knew this, Jim, but when you flip cars upside down, if you're an Australian, you flip the cars upside down.
I'm listening.
They all turn into
kangaroos.
No, pickup trucks. Well, sort of. I guess kangaroos can carry stuff, but yeah.
Utes for your kangaroos.
Yeah, and so the Ute, by the way, if you're unfamiliar with it, it's like an El Camino or a Ranchero.
El Camino, a Ranchero, the Subaru Baja,
the
Subaru Brat,
the Brat, the Baja. Those all are Utes in the Australian.
Well, we have
parlance.
some nowadays, don't we? Have that weird Honda Santa something or
well,
something.
That's more of a
Ford
crossover.
Maverick. Well, they have little truck beds, don't they?
Kinda.
The little Toyota or Ford Maverick, whatever it is, the Ford Maverick front wheel drive truck bed thing.
Yeah, I would say I would go out on a limb and say the Santa Cruz and the Maverick they do not count as Utes, because Utes are based off of existing passenger cars typically, and usually it's a car like a sedan, except that it has a pickup truck bed. And I don't know why these didn't catch on more in the United States.
I kind of like the Subaru Brats and the Subaru Bajas, to be honest. I like the El Caminos. I like the Rancheros.
They're great cars. And the idea that you can have, so the Australians took this a step further.
They're like a mullet if it was a car.
That's a great way to put it. If a car was a mullet, you would have a Ute.
Be a Ute, yeah.
You would have a Ute. And the thing is, you can have the Holden Ute SS here. You can have this. Comes with a 5.7 liter V8, factory 302 horsepower. That's going to be an LS, by the way. Holden is a branch of General Motors. So a lot of the stuff you're going to get from Australia, it's going to have overlap with, say, the Pontiac GTO, the last generation of the GTO. Think the mid-2000s, Pontiac was selling the GTO. That was actually a rebadged Holden shipped over to the United States.
I honestly hate the way they look.
They don't look great, but...
No, it looks like an Acura. I just hate the way it looks.
But think of this. They have continued making those
good to go
in pickup truck version with LS V8s for years.
Yeah, it might be worth doing. This might be one worth looking at. The Holden sounds like a really good one to look at.
Yep, and there's a couple other ones here that are European and fancy. They're sophisticated, the sort of sophisticated, you drink the tea with your pinky in the air, that kind of sophisticated. The Noble M12, it's a supercar. That one's kind of cool. The Audi RS4 Avant, I know a lot of the European version of that. A lot of Euro guys go nuts over those RS4 Avants. Tons of them. But
good for them.
And this one, the Renault Clio 2 RS.
It just sounds disgusting.
I'm sure. What is Renault? Renault's French?
Say it again one more time, that whole name.
Renault or Renault.
Okay.
However you say it. Clio 2 RS.
That sounds like some kind of weird disease or something.
So anyway, that's French. It's European. We don't care about it. What we do care about is cool cars from Asia, specifically Japan, that are also legal in 2025. Now, I should preface this by saying, if you're wondering, why is it legal in 2025? That's because we have this completely asinine rule in the United States that in order to import a car that wasn't sold in our market, it has to be 25 years old because, well, if it's not 25 years old, it might be unsafe, it might not do this, it might not meet these regulations. But suddenly that doesn't matter the second it turns 25.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff with all that. There's chicken tax and nonsense and rules and bailouts and just import things and telling you what you can or can't have. Plus, California regulates everything the rest of us can have, period, in the States, which is ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, so a couple of these here are going to be models that maybe have been legal at least for a year, but now we get another year of them. We get more of a choosing, more supply to pick from. The Skyline R34 GTR, of course, everyone's going to go nuts over that. Paul Walker, Fast and Furious.
They're not my shot of whiskey exactly. They're neat, but just not really my taste.
The next one, this might be more of your taste. The Toyota Altezza RS200.
Not really my taste. It's
really.
I don't like.
You don't like the Altezza?
I don't. It's an IS300 basically. I do not like them that much. They're small inside. I'm kind of cramped. I feel like I'm getting into a small Honda. It's the one Yoda thing I don't have a fancy for. And everybody's like, "What? Why don't?" I was like, they're just not my shot of whiskey.
I'm amazed that you're not a fan of those. I like the
3S beams, the 6-speed, yada yada. You like all that,
and I might have just purchased the engine and drivetrain out of one.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about that later.
That's another thing. But yeah, no, we found a Toyota that I don't really. Care about.
Do I have Jim Miller on the show?
I like a lot. Okay. But look, if I could find one for a good deal that was cheap, I'd have one.
All right, we got a minute left here, less than a minute. Rapid fire, the 2000 Honda S2000. You can buy those in the U.S. already, but now you can get the JDM versions. Local Honda guy, the Honda Hoarder, bought one, and I just saw it on his social media. Right-hand drive now. RX-7 Spirit R. You can get one of those. You can also get any flavor of Mitsubishi Evo, the Honda Integra Type R. All of this stuff.
The Evo sounds good.
I like the Evo. The Evo's good.
The S2000 sounds neat.
Right-hand drive?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So, hey, you're listening to the Automotive ADHD show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks to James for producing the show. We'll talk to you next week when we're talking more cars right here.